Merhaba arkadaşlar, and welcome to another video where I will be going over a new build that isn't really that much of a build, but is more about a archetype that I wanted to play this league as soon as I saw the new items. So this is my Spark and Elementalist, which utilizes power charges and curse stacking with the new Anathema Moonstone ring. So basically, when I saw that the new ring that was being released this league has your curse limit is equal to your maximum power charges, I figured, hey, I want to do something with that ring. You know, it seems like it's not really that popular right now, and I'm not sure if there are better versions of it than for this, but I wanted to try something myself, so I started crafting a build around this. And then I also noticed that they have been releasing new jewels for the Sanctum League, and I saw the Balance of Terror. And I was like, huh, that's pretty interesting that you can get like double damage and crit multiplier if you cast curses. And then I also saw that they have been changing how Malediction works now. So Malediction used to be on the Occultist Ascendancy tree, but now it is on the Victim Maker small cluster jewel. So I figured, is there a way that I can utilize all these things together and make an entire build around it? And that's basically what I've done here. So we're going to go through everything step by step, the skill tree, the gear, and basically how the character plays out. And yeah, we're just going to go through it all, and you're just going to have to see what this kind of weird build idea that I have is. So let's start off with the ring itself. Your curse limit is equal to your maximum power charges. So obviously we need a lot of power charges, which is why we're playing the Witch Ascendancy. First of all, because we're on this side of the skill tree, we have all the power charges available on this side of the tree. And then I am also using Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame in order to get Forbidden Power from the Occultist Ascendancy in order to get +1 maximum power charges as well. So you have 3 power charges as your maximum normally, and then we have 3 from the tree here, and then we have +1 from the Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewels. So that gives us 7 power charges, which means we have 7 curses that we can utilize. So the curses that we utilize is Conductivity on hit on the ring. Then we also have a Hands of the High Templar gloves with Temporal Chains and Elemental Weakness. Then I also use, let me see here, where it is, Arcanist brand in order to get Enfeeble and Assassin's Mark as well. And then I self-cast Vulnerability. So these are a lot of curses, and they're both offensive and defensive. For example, Elemental Weakness and Conductivity is so we deal more damage because we're playing Spark. And then we have Temporal Chains and Enfeeble and stuff like that in order to become more tanky. And we have Assassin's Mark because we're a crit build, so we want those juicy crits. And then I also use Vulnerability, which doesn't really do anything. Like, casting Vulnerability doesn't do anything because, like, Vulnerability is physical damage. But the thing that it does give me is that it does enable my 10% chance to deal double damage if you've cast Vulnerability in the past 10 seconds. It does activate that. So if I just cast Vulnerability, boom, I have 10% chance for double damage, which is a huge amount of damage as well. Like, this is a big damage multiplier. And then also, if you've cast Enfeeble in the past 10 seconds, which I have on my Arcanist brand on bosses, then we get Enfeeble on the boss, so he deals less damage. And guess what? I get 30% crit multiplier as well. Big damage multiplier there as well. So I just put Arcanist brand, cast Vulnerability once, and as you can see here, my cast speed for Vulnerability is very fast. So I just click these 2 buttons, and boom, I just have giga damage right there because of this jewel. And this jewel also gives elemental resistances, which is perfect. So that's one thing that we utilize for that. And then, yeah, then we just have all the other curses for, you know, defensive and offensive things, which is great because of, you know, this ring that we have. So we just slam so many curses on the enemy. And then, enemies cursed by you have Malediction if 33% of curse duration expired. Enemies with Malediction deal 10% reduced damage and take 10% reduced damage as well. So all Vulnerability has a curse duration of 11 seconds. So if I cast this, after 3-4 seconds, you know, whatever, 4 seconds I guess it is, after 4 seconds, the boss will also have Malediction. So I just cast this, and after 4 seconds, the boss takes 10% more damage, and he deals 10% less damage. And all I really gotta do is recast Vulnerability somewhat every 10 seconds in order to get the 10% double damage. So this is what I do. Like, I go in on bosses, I just click, and then I just hammer away. And then after 10 seconds, like, oh, recast Vulnerability, and then I just go to town again with DPS. So it's not really that active of a build, and it's pretty chill and easy and fun to play. So I've really been enjoying this build quite a lot. We're playing the Elementalist Ascendancy from Mastermind of Discord, so we expose, and then we get more damage from exposure, and Heart of Destruction, so we get Convergence, which gives us like 30% more elemental damage. So when you do have Convergence and everything up, you're just blasting damage. It's absolutely insane. Bash of Elements in order to be more tanky. And then I also went with Leech of the Primordial because I didn't really know what to get. Like, you can get Shaper of Storms if you want for, like, guaranteed, you know, at least 50% shock and all that stuff. It's some nice damage there, but I figured that according to Path of Building, they're somewhat equal, and I do like having, you know, that my golems are resummoned, and because I'm using a Thread of Hope here, I get Golem Commander, so I figured, like, having 3 golems, you know, Flame Golem from damage and Lightning Golem for, like, cast speed is kind of nice, and then we have the Stone Golem for some nice regen as well. And all the golems give stronger buffs, and, you know, they did a little bit damage themselves. So I figured, you know, I wanted to go for Leech of the Primordial, but here you could go for Shaper of Storm. But yeah, that's basically, you know, the main gist of the build, and I've been having a blast with it. And one thing I want to say as well before we really get into like the skill tree and the gear and everything, you can play this build with any skill that you want. The only reason why I'm playing Spark is because I like the MTX for this. Now, I know Spark has been very popular in this league. I didn't really realize that myself because I only focus on, like, you know, making my own builds and all that stuff. But if you want to play something else, just pick any spell skill or like do whatever you want. Like, the idea behind this build is the power charges, using Balance of Terror, and using the ring. Everything else is like, you know, it's whatever. I just put all the stuff on the Elementalist specifically because, you know, I wanted to do some elemental damage and I just wanted to play Spark. But you could play whatever skill you want and just make your own skill tree and all your own gear, as long as you know, go for the ring, get a lot of curses, and utilize this jewel somehow. Then, you know, do whatever you want. It's up to you. So let's go over the skill tree a little bit then, shall we? In the skill tree, as you can see here, we go for all the power charges, we go for crit stuff, and you know, Disciple of the Forbidden. I'm right now playing with a staff, so I wanted to go for a Serpent Stance and Counterweight and Whirling Barrier as well, because that's pretty nice damage if you go on crit build and playing with staff. And that's basically it. There's nothing really super crazy going on here. I'm doing Cluster Jewels, a large lightning. This was actually relatively cheap because there doesn't seem to be that many people playing lightning right now. And then I have Repeater and Streamline because projectile speed is really nice to have on Spark, so I went for a double that. These were also very cheap. And then there's not a lot of people who play like this curse setup, so the small clusters were pretty cheap as well. We have a Thread of Hope with Medium Ring in order to get Golem Commander, Heart of Thunder, and Cruel Preparation. And if you get more skill points, you can get Breath of Lightning as well if you want to, you know, kind of up to you. And yeah, everything else is pretty generic stuff, you know, like nothing really crazy. One thing that I did figure though is that I was having mana issues because we have a lot of auras and like very expensive auras. So I was having mana issues and I didn't really figure out a good way to fix this. If there's someone else who knows a better way to fix this, then go ahead and do that. But I had to opt in for Eldritch Battery, and in order for Eldritch Battery to work, I had to get some energy shield recharge rate percentage, because that's kind of the problem with Eldritch Battery, is that like you get less energy shield recharge rate. And I also had to get a little bit of energy shield as well. So like I have around 500-600 energy shield, a little bit of energy shield recharge rate, and then I can just spam away. Because beforehand I was having trouble like spamming Spark, and you can kind of see that like right now as well. If I just keep spamming, eventually it's gonna go down pretty hard. Like eventually I'm just gonna have 0 energy shield and I can't spam anymore. That's why I also have like some spell damage, Leasage energy shield on my flask. But you know, when I managed to get the boots with energy shield recharge rate, it actually worked out pretty good, and I don't really feel like I need a spell damage Leech's energy shield, but yeah, it is what it is. But I tested this a lot. I had to do some different variations of it, and this one worked out very good in the end, so I can just go into a boss room or walk around the map and just spam all the time without having to, you know, worry about like mana cost or energy shield cost or anything like that. And then for gear, you've already seen the Hands of the High Templar. We have that because of Temporal Chains and Elemental Weakness on hit, because we need a lot of curses in order to utilize our 7 curse limit. Then I just have Stygian Vice with some stats, Life and Resist, because I needed the stats. Boots here with some increased energy shield recharge rate, Life, Resist, and movement speed. The increased energy shield recharge rate really helped out a lot, like I said, with the cost of the spamming Spark. Then we obviously have the Anathema Moonstone Ring, a 2-stone ring with non-channeling skills and -7 total mana cost. This also helped quite a bit with casting Spark. I also have curse enemies with conductivity on hit, because we need to hit like the 7 curses, and this gives us a lot of damage. And then I have Amulet with some different things like +1 level of all lightning skill gems, non-channeling, and some resist. Like it was a decent amulet, and I didn't really want to pay too much for this build, so I didn't get like any crazy gear. I wanted enough gear to just so I could do endgame bosses, not uber bosses, but just endgame bosses, and just map quite chill as well. And then we have chance to gain a frenzy charge on hit and spell crit chance armor. This gave a lot of damage with the frenzy charge on hit and the spell crit, so this is really nice. Also gives a lot of armor because we're playing with determination. Then I have helmet with Spark fires 3 additional projectiles, because Spark fires projectiles like this, and then they just go all over the place, and they, you know, circle back, etc. And whenever you hit an enemy with Spark, it just deals damage. So having a lot of projectiles means a lot of damage. Some cast speed, mana reservation, efficiency of skills, which you can see here that I kind of needed. 58 mana. So we are using Cemetery, Wrath, and Determination, and that's reserving a lot of our mana. So I need to have an Enlighten first of all, and then I need to have this amulet, this helmet as well. And then you kind of want projectiles pierce an additional target for clear speed. If you don't have any pierce at all on your spark, you're going to notice that clearing is really annoying, because the balls just hit an enemy one time and then they stop because they don't go through them because they can't pierce. So having some form of pierce is really good. And then for the staff, I was thinking about getting the Annihilating Staff because it's a lot of damage, but it really screwed over the resists a lot. If you can make it work somehow with that staff, then you're going to have basically double the damage of what I have right now. But you're going to have to min-max your character a lot when it comes to resist, and you're going to have to fix that somehow. Pretty annoying. So I just went with the Dusk Dawn. It was pretty cheap. It's still really good. You can get a rare staff if you want as well, but I couldn't really bother finding an expensive rare staff or crafting it myself, so I just said, screw it, I'll go for this. It works fine. It's all good. And that's basically it. And then for flasks, you know, it's whatever. Cast speed, duration on a basalt, granite for armor, silver for onslaught, and then, you know, just a movement speed flask. Nothing really special here. And that's basically it for gear. Like in the skill tree, you know, or here I have a Watcher's Eye as well with some lightning damage while affected by Wrath, and then I obviously have the Forbidden Flesh and Flame Jewel, we have the Thread of Hope, we have the Cluster Jewels, and then we have the Balance of Terror. And lastly, but of course not least, we have the gems: Wrath, Cemetery, Enlighten, and Determination, Assassin's Mark, Enfeeble, Tornado, Arcanist Brand, Spark, Awaken added lightning damage, Pinpoint, Awaken lightning pen, Power charge on crit, and Awaken spell echo. These are kind of expensive. Like, this is where most of the money went to. Like Awaken spell echo and stuff like that is very expensive. But I know there are other gems that you can use. This is the ones that I wanted to use, but I know there are different variations that you can use for Spark, and it's kind of up to you what you want to go for. If you do end up with having Pinpoint, then I do suggest that you get this Caster Master here, which has spells which can gain intensity, have +1 to maximum intensity. If you don't go for Pinpoint, then you don't need this. And then in the helmet we have the Lightning Golem, Flame Golem, Stone Golem, and the Vulnerability. And then in the staff, faster casting, Flame Dash, Second Wind, and then Righteous Fire, increased duration, and Molten Shell. So I just have Molten Shell on my left click, activate Vol Righteous Fire for bosses, and then like I said earlier, Arcanist Brand, 1 vulnerability, and then just hard right click. Just go to town. Just eat them up, baby. And that's basically it for the video. This was my interpretation of using the Anathema ring with power charges and curses. I wanted Spark because of the MTX, and I had a lot of fun. So until I see you next time, have a great day and do the thing in McDonald's, and later.